Hashemini Blessings family will be speaking about the Odu Oguna Tetura, Awo Madi, Awo Morocco, Awo Mamoroso de, Baba Yekwe Yekweri, Mayaba Yekwe Yekweri, Baba Yekwe Yekweri, Mayaba Yekwe Yekweri, Iva Fungolofin, Yekwe Yekwe Yekweri. Just like the prayer says, Awo Madi, Awo Morocco, Awo Mamoroso de. It speaks of three different Babalaos who had the specific names. The first two, Awo Madi and Awo Morocco, where you could say self-sufficient. They're very studious of Ifa, but overly confident of their knowledge that they have acquired. Awo Mamoroso de was not so confident because he did not know that much of Ifa, but he truly believed everything Ifa was telling him, right? So the first three were advised to do an ebo for the head so that they could become a Obairi, basically the head of knowledge in this new land. So the first two were already confident or too cocky and thought that they did not require this at all. Mamoroso de, on the other hand, did the ebo. The first two, when they went to journey onto this dangerous destiny, they did not make it. They basically transitioned and passed away. The third one, Mamoroso de, did the ebo, right? So he did a feeding for his ori and other elements, and he was able to acquire so much knowledge and so much understanding, and he was assisted by Elekba, by Shango, and by Ogun, and also by the Babalaos of transition, who are now known as Eguna Bureawo, brothers of Ifa who were transitioning, and they gave him their blessings also to the Babalao. So what this basically teaches is that no matter what, for this person that has this Odu in hand of Ifa, Kofano Wa Afakan, it says here that yes, we have acquired a lot of wisdom, a lot of knowledge, but we can never undermine or underestimate the advice that Odomila gives to us. We may have our own way of tackling spiritual matters in terms of the Osha Ifa culture, but in the Osha Ifa culture, we always utilize the divination to assure that everything is done in a structured manner and to guarantee the results of the Ebo, and that it's in tune with your auric field, because if we make up different rituals without knowing what's going to be suitable, it's like shooting blanks in the dark. Also, this great Odu speaks about where Ogun and Shango were great friends at one point. Shango had was known as a dog for his pet, and Shango had a carnero, right? So basically, these different animals were basically exchanged. Like Shango would take care of his animal, of Ogun's animal, and Ogun will take care of Shango's animal. But unfortunately, Shango was very hungry and ate the carnero without the consent of Ogun. Ogun was upset and basically attacked the Aya, right, the Shango's pet. So what this basically says, in terms of another interpretation, is that Oguna Tetura has to be very careful of things that are given to them to take care of, whether it's finances, whether it's a business, whether it's a package, because if they're careless and things they don't take care of it well, when that owner approaches them, then it will encounter a very embarrassing situation. Oguna Tetura also talks about a person who may not be so disciplined, because this is where the person believes a lot in Odomila, believes a lot in the Orishas, but they're not very consistent with catering to the Orishas. And there came a moment when the person was going to a lot of scarcity in life and had to do a bow and also reinstitute himself back to the faith. This also Odu teaches in Oguna Tetura, Awo Mandi, Awo Morocco, Awo Mamoroso de, Baba Yekoekolori, represents the crown of the Babalao. But also this unfortunate story where there is a Babalao who was Awo Oguna Tetura, and a lot of negativity is happening to him. He did not understand because he was very faithful to Odomila and Orishas, and basically it even affected his thoughts negatively, where even the person decided to unalive themselves. And in the ancestral realm, in Odun, is when he discovered the origins of why he was feeling that way. Unfortunately, one of his elders who initiated him in the faith was doing a lot of negativity spiritually, where it affected his mind. And Olofin, noticing that, was very upset with that, and Shango reprimanded along with Olofin what happened. So the elder also was affected very harshly for doing that. So then in heaven, there was like basically an agreement, like a redemption period between the initiate and the initiator, where things were instituted back into normalcy, right? And he was able to reincarnate again and regain his life back into the faith. So basically what this represents is that there is a negative karmic engine that's activated if an elder decides to attack their godson or goddaughter spiritually, right? Innocent or not innocent, because elders, once we initiate people in our faith, we have a sacred bond. So we don't do that, because that's a negative. Shango doesn't like that. Olofin doesn't like that. And it creates a negative karmic engine. Not only on the elder doing that towards the initiate, but the initiate utilizing the same deities that the elder gave them to attack their elders. Again, it's a negative effect in the eyes of Olofin and Shango. So it's like basically mutual. There's always have to be a mutual respect between godchild, godson, goddaughter, and elders, right? And there's drastic consequences when it's done otherwise, right? When the people are just attacked spiritually for no apparent reason, and there's consequences for that. The Odu Oguna Tetura Awo Mandi Awo Morocco Fungoba speaks of Oshun, where she was praying to the moon, the sun, the stars, different aspects of nature to find a significant other, but she was not able to find a significant other. She had financial stability, she had everything well, but except that. And basically, Oromila guided her to do an Ebo, and when she did the Ebo, somehow there was a connection between the deity itself, Oromila, with the deity Oshun, and there was that connection. Also, Guna de Tura teaches a philosophy also outside of other Odus like Oyekumodi, and Oshetura. Oguna de Tura teaches why Oromila and the Babalaos that are his disciples and priests do not mount with Orishas. So we don't get possessed by no Orishas. That's one of the basic requirements to the Lukumi faith to become a Babalao. That is discovered with the Odu, hand of Ifa Odu, and also especially when we get crowned with our head Orisha. We go through a process of wearing white for an entire year, and then we go through a process known as the Presentación de Tambor, the Aña drum sacred presentation. At that moment, no matter how strong a will is, if we're meant to get mounted by our Orisha, that's the moment it happens. Fortunately, at least for me, it did not happen, so this is why it gave me clearance outside of other requirements to become a Babala, which I've been for the past 11 years and plus years in this tradition. But so the message behind this is to understand the differences between priests and priestesses, because it says a person may encounter someone who claims to be a Babala or priest, and they're not. So they have to be very careful to see who's authentic, who's not authentic. Oguna de Tura, Awomandia Morokafungo Ba, is a very interesting Odu, because there's certain ebos where it requires for a person to even adopt temporarily pigeons and feed them and let them fly around the house and just feed them to give them nourishment, and then they just are fed to Olofin, or they're basically let go to fly in the sky. And that is to bless the home. That's to also hold a person's karma and many factors in that endeavor. Oguna de Tura speaks about a story about Oshoshi, where Oshoshi in this case was a womanizer, was not very disciplined towards his significant other. There came a moment when she was his wife was drawing attention to someone else, and she eventually ended up leaving him without his consent with someone else. And rumors were spreading, and Shoshi was not even taking it serious until the same guy who took his woman began to parade himself of doing it. Well, Shoshi was upset, his pride was hurt, and he basically shot an arrow to that person and unalived them, right? So the message behind this is that do not let a situation lead to a physical altercation where you lose your mind. In relationships, mutual communication is important. Understand your partner, see how they're feeling, what's going on, so that things do not go haywire in the relationship. Oguna de Tura speaks of the depression of Oromila. This is a point where there was a sense of depression from this son of Oromila, or a priest of Ifa, where they had a lot of family, a lot of children, and they purchased a home, and they were in debt because the houses were so expensive, and he didn't have enough to even eat or provide for his family. So he started thinking negatively to unalive himself. And then when he led to, before he did an Ebo, his last Ebo, to clear his energy. And then when he got a rope to do it, two birds were actually flew right by his pockets and started eating the food that he had. And they were thanking God for that food. And that's when he realized there's people worse than me. Why am I doing this? And he decided to not do it. 3 days later, a miracle happened. 2 people came for a reading, and then since then, he was well off financially, and things were great. So this says that never give up, no matter what. Everything is temporal, Don't take things personal. Keep moving forward. Great times are ahead. All right, so there's a lot more, but we're under that 10 minutes time frame for this for the videos that I upload. But I'm gonna do a live after this, so to extend it more on the explanation. But hopefully you enjoyed it. This is basically from the Old Oguna de Tura. It's so much to teach about this. It talks about a very spiritual person, a person that has a lot of heaviness or a lot of responsibilities, but Ogun is the one that can help him alleviate those burdens. In terms of the woman, it talks about a woman who may have children but did not have a successful marriage and is seeking for a partner. And it says that both required, but that new partner that may arrive, there has to be a mutual respect and agreement. Otherwise, the separation will happen again. So it's very delicate. It's a lot of advice in there with that Odu, but I'm going to cut it short there. But many blessings to everyone. This is the English version of the Odu Oguna de Tura. Ashe Buru, Ashe Oshe. This is Aworomila of Fungando y Fauma.